Rand Paul of Kentucky is a member of the Foreign Relations Committee. Thank God you're on that committee. Let me ask you, what does Dick Cheney push this guy for? He's an oil guy with Halliburton. Now he's pushing a fellow oil guy. The neocons got their arms around Tillerson already. What's going on here? Why has he got the love of Cheney, the hawk?
Well, I just hope he didn't get a friendship award from Dick Cheney. That might be a problem. But, you know, I'm keeping an open mind on Tillerson. I want to know what his worldview is more than where he's traveled or who he knows. And I think it may be overblown. I mean, he's made deals in many, many countries. You know, some award, you know, I don't know that this means that he's skiing and fishing with Putin. They got some award. So let's hear at least a little bit about what his worldview is. Does he believe in intervention ad nauseum in the Middle East? Does he believe in regime change, nation building? You know, some of the things that I've been encouraged about Donald Trump, we haven't agreed on some things, but I have been encouraged that he thinks that regime change in the Middle East hasn't made us safer or more secure, that he hasn't been for nation building, regime change, and he thinks I honestly believe he's learned the lesson that the Iraq War didn't help us as a country.
Well, I know who hasn't learned his lesson because it's who he is essentially, and that's John Bolton. That guy won't quit. His desire for power and to wheedle his way into every Republican administration is relentless. The neocon network helps him. Here he is, John Bolton, the man NBC reports as being, I love this phrase, actually I hate it, eyed for Deputy Secretary of State, has advocated for bombing Iran. Here he was just last year. This is Bolton.
Just as Israel twice before has struck nuclear weapons programs in the hands of hostile states, I'm afraid, given the circumstances, that's the only real option open to us now. Right now, or are you saying leading into the future? No, I would have done this 5 or 6 years ago because the earlier you strike, the more damage you can do.
Oh, my God. Bolton on Fox, an unbelievable combination. That was a strong booster. Of course, he was of the Iraq invasion, still is. In 2002, Bolton peddled bad information about that country's weapons program. Quote, we are confident, he said at the time, that Saddam Hussein has hidden weapons of mass destruction and production facilities in Iraq. Well, last May, Bolton continued to defend the invasion. That's last month, telling the Washington Examiner, a conservative newspaper, I still think the decision to overthrow Saddam was correct. I love the way it's so prissy, correct. He echoed that sentiment as recently as yesterday. Here we go.
I was a member of George W. Bush's administration. He supported the Iraq War. Of course I supported the Iraq War. I've written on the subject, some people would probably say endlessly, about what the lessons are to be learned from it. I've put it out on the record. I've never hidden my views from anybody, and I absolutely don't back away from them.
Senator Paul, isn't it interesting that the ones who backed the Iraq war also backed going into Libya, also backed going into Syria, and they always have one like in a little Pez dispenser, a little candy dispenser. They always have the next war they want us to fight. There's always one they pushed about, another war comes out. They always want a new war, and Bolton's classic. Your thoughts? Will you be able to stop this guy if he gets in the door?
Well, this is why learning the historical lessons are important. This isn't the Iraq War from 15 years ago or 14 years ago that we're concerned about. We're worried about whether or not he learned the lesson from that war, but he didn't. He advocated for regime change in Libya, turned into chaos, and ISIS actually became strengthened. And I think we're more at risk now for terrorist attack from Libya than we were before the war. He's also advocated for regime change in Syria. And as bad a guy as Assad is, I don't know that that's helped us, because I think it actually has created a power vacuum where ISIS has filled that vacuum. But even more so, advocating for regime change in Iran is a real problem, because it shows this naive understanding of the world that he thinks, oh, everything's going to be great. We're going to drop a few bombs. They'll have a new government there. Thomas Jefferson will be elected, and there'll be no more problems in Iran. Well, it didn't work out that way in Iraq, and I think Iran's a bigger, much stronger country than Iraq ever was. And I don't think he's learned any of the lessons of the Iraq War, and he wants to reinstitute a new war in Iran. So, no, I think this person, John Bolton, should never have any position in the State Department. I will vote no, and I hope my vote will be the deciding vote to keep him out of the State Department.
Well, maybe we put him out on point in the next conflict. He'll change his mind, make him go out in front. Anyway, Senator Rand Paul, one last thought. Do you think there's any possibility that if we do establish a working relationship with Vladimir Putin in Syria, that somehow we can perhaps partition the country, put Bashar Assad into the Alawite area, just the area where they're very loyal to him, break up the country, give the Sunnis some leadership over there so they can grab most of the country from ISIS. In other words, a hopeful I don't see anything happening now as long as Assad's there. What can we do? Do you think the selection of Tillerson and working with Putin might work some deal that gets us to a closer place to peace?
Well, you know, I think this is a very important question, even with regards to Iraq as well. I think Iraq is disintegrated into at least two countries, maybe two countries and a civil war region. Syria is the same way. And will they ever be put back together? There are a lot of smart people who look at foreign policy who don't see those countries ever being put back together. The Kurds are advocating for their own country. You know, Joe Biden, many years ago, and he and I don't agree on everything, but he did talk about dividing Iraq probably 15 years ago. The Turks ruled it from the Ottoman Empire with different provinces. So I think it should be entertained. And actually, I'm supportive of the Kurds. They've fought the best and the hardest. I'm supportive of them having their own homeland. They seem to be good allies and friends of ours. And in fact, I think they would actually do more for liberating us from ISIS if we were giving weapons directly to them and not sending the weapons through Baghdad.
What ultimately worked in Europe, we divided Europe up, we divided the Balkans up and Yugoslavia up, and sometimes people live better when they divorce from each other and they don't have to deal with each other every day. Anyway, thank you, Senator Rand Paul, for coming on tonight. Well, I agree with you. I hope we can stop Bolton.